Welcome to our vibrant network of governance, risk, compliance, and cybersecurity leaders. We share cutting-edge insights, best practices, and innovative strategies to empower professionals in navigating the dynamic cyber threat landscape. Join Circulo de CISO to ignite resilience and data protection across industries.
Welcome back again for another edition of Circulo de CISO. As you're aware, we've been inviting various professionals to talk on important subjects. It could be about a problem, it could be a trend, or it could be something of interest in the space of cybersecurity. And in the past, we've had conversations on risk, privacy, compliance, resilience. And today, in this context, we're going to be talking about API, Application Programming Interface. And to have this conversation, I have my good friend, Vaithi Subramanian, and he has over 16 years of experience, and his expertise comes from internal audit, risk management, cybersecurity, consulting, and also building governance and risk frameworks. So he's worked with global brands such as Ernst & Young, IBM, Cognizant Technologies, and Standard Chartered Bank. And currently, he serves as the head of enterprise risk management at NIM. He's also well qualified. He has a CISSP, CISA, CEH, and various other qualifications and certifications. And in my view, he is the best person to talk about this subject of API security. So as you all know, that API has become a subject of discussion in various forums. And typically, it actually facilitates communication with devices and applications. Vaithi, welcome to the episode again.
Thank you so much, Sujit.
So, Vaithi, you heard the introduction about APIs. I'd like you to tell our viewers, why is API security should be a mainstream conversation? Vaithi?
Absolutely. I think before we get there, we just need to look at the statistics, right? If you look at last year's number presented by Akamai, it shows that 83% of the internet traffic globally is from API. So which means we are in a big API explosion, right? Particularly with open banking, neo banking, and a whole lot of new technology coming in that relies heavily on API. And secondly, we have organizations now moving completely towards microservices architecture, serverless architecture, and all of that. So with all that happening, dependence on API is gaining significant momentum, and they are now becoming a default structure in any enterprise application stack. So with that coming in, the importance of API security has gained a significant talk recently as to why it is required, right? And secondly, again, going back to statistics, Gartner says that last year there were close to like $43 billion loss because of attacks on API, being structured by organizations because of poorly designed APIs and all that. That's a very significant number to note at. And thirdly, again, from a statistical reference, it says in the course of API designing and testing, only 4% is actually towards security, right? That's a very alarming number to look at, right? So these are like, say, key points that I actually want to table to say that why API security needs to be discussed and has to be looked at more seriously as we actually look at application security as well. So that's the point I want to stress on.
statistics are scary. All right, the data speaks volumes. So we got to trust the statistics. What you said, 83% of the internet traffic is API traffic. That's significant, right? And then you're also saying that the losses due to cyber crime or cyber attacks were amounting to 43 billion. And these are, statistics from reputed surveys, right? Akamai, Gartner. And the last one, which you mentioned about design and testing. Did you say it was 4%? What was the percentage you were talking
Yes,
about there?
yes.
Yeah, 4%. So what's worrying here, what people need to take note of is, while we talk a lot on the context of privacy by design, security by design, right? So that's the mantra we say, right? Security is all about ensuring these two principles are implemented. Now, when you say only 4% has been tested around design and testing, then that means that principle of design, security by design, privacy by design is not being practiced. Is that a fair statement to assume, Vaithi?
Let me just correct it, right? So the 4% of security testing I was saying is on the APIs. If you look at banking and fintechs, their
Mm-hmm.
core focus is on the UI, the user interface
Okay.
that they create. So most of the security reinforcement happens only at a UI layer. They don't look at what is there in the backend. So there is no importance given to the APIs that are getting designed, primarily for the fact that the urgency with which it needs to be up and running is one of the primary factors, right? And that results as an exposure and opens up the world, for the threat actors to come in, right? So one of the points that I want to reiterate is, consider the API also as a software artifact, right? Let it also go through the entire API security lifecycle, like how we have the SDLC process. The API also needs to go through the entire security lifecycle, right from planning, design, testing, and then moving into production, right? Just to kind of cross-reference here, Sujit, about my experience, right? So in my previous stint with an international bank, we used to run something called as an API council, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that actually meets once a month. It looks at all of the APIs that are there in the pipeline. We understand for what purposes these APIs are created. And we also see to it that we do appropriate risk assessment basis the nature of APIs, and see to it these controls are actually embedded at the time the APIs are actually designed, right? Because some of the APIs that are created could be internal or external, right? So, I mean, it's not like an era where it was more traditional, because we had a perimeter and we could be able to see like who is going to access what. But now almost most of the APIs are like public APIs. So you really need to know who access what, and whether the person who's accessing is the person who he actually claims to be, right? So we need to actually have two set of things that we need to look. One is from an authentication perspective, another from an authorization perspective as well, right? So these things are something that needs to be embedded at a time of designing the APIs, which more often is not being paid attention to by the developers. As I said, it's because of the urgency to kind of get these up and running. So that's one factor I want to kind of reiterate here, that uh, treat the APIs also as another software artifact. Treat that as a change. I mean, understand that now security reinforcement is more at a UI layer, but definitely with the rising attacks and with an API explosion that's happening in the market, it is absolutely imperative and pertinent for companies, particularly banks and fintechs, to focus more on the API security testing.
So in a sense, if I were to say in summary about APIs or application programming interface, it's a set of protocols, tools, and the definitions that allow different software applications to communicate with each other. Right? So that is what, in essence, we are doing. And it also enables the developers to integrate various systems and applications, facilitating the exchange of data and functionality in a seamless and standardized manner. So what comes in the way is the urgency to bring a product quickly to the market. And the second factor is, like a feel-good factor, you want to ensure it is frictionless. So wherever people may think bringing in security controls would create friction, so it is probably overlooked as well. So thank you, Vaithi, for this introductory session. So we would continue this discussion again tomorrow, where we're going to talk about different types of API-related risk. So Vaithi, thank you once again for your time.
Thank you so much.